Alright, so now it's time to go over everything in this room, and again, this is where we finally get to arcade machines and pinball machines, so there's lots to look at in here, and there are definitely some things in this room that I have made individual videos about, which we're still definitely going to go over here, but you are of course always welcome to go view those videos, in particular if you want like a really in-depth look at them. But starting with that, we actually have my Game Boy Advance and Game Boy boxed collection. This is not all of it, but these are kind of like the main games where you get a lot of the Donkey Kongs and the Mega Man, and of course the staple of the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, the Pokemon games, and one of my favorite series of all time, the Wario Land series, Super Mario Advance and Land, and of course Sonic Advance also being great. So I don't have a massive boxed Game Boy Advance collection. These are actually a lot of just kind of my original boxes from the games that I bought back in the day. And for whatever reason, because I guess they were smaller than like Nintendo 64 boxes and all that, they just didn't get thrown out, which is pretty awesome. So I was able to kind of, you know, keep a nice collection of them going. And the reason you see like 2 Sapphires and such would be because I got Sapphire, my sister got Sapphire, so we both just kind of kept our boxes. Because they were very nice boxes. I think that's all there really is to say about that, though. Again, there just are some pretty cool Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Original boxes. But here we have my PlayStation display cabinet, which would have been used in an official retail store to sell you all of your PlayStation games and products. And in here, as you can see, the games are kind of all lined up in these plastic trays that kind of stick out from the back, which makes it kind of awkward to organize PlayStation games in it. But I've done my best to kind of put, you know, memorable, iconic PlayStation games in the front position of each of these so that it just looks overall really nice. And I have done a video where I talk a lot more about this cabinet in particular, so I definitely recommend checking that out if it's something you think would interest you. The games are all in alphabetical order though, still, just kind of it starts at the front and then goes back, and then to the right, so as you can see, like A, B, B, B still, and then C, and then it kind of just works its way all the way down. You get Final Fantasy, the Mega Mans, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and just everything that everyone loves about the original PlayStation. One of the first times that my mind was really blown as someone who, to that point, was pretty much exclusively a Nintendo person. I never owned Sega consoles growing up like several of my friends did. And we got the Wonder Swan, Final Fantasy II bundle back there, which I have done an unboxing and review of. And some big box PlayStation games, along with some other memorabilia. And then at the very bottom you get like consoles, PS2, PSP, PlayStation 1, even a bit of Vita, both the black and white variants of the PSP Go. It's definitely a pretty obscure console. And yes, so that is the really quick overview of the PlayStation cabinet. And again, I've made an individual video about that, if it's something that you believe would interest you to hear about further. Actually taking a detour now and going up the stairs, speaking of things we've also already looked at, but definitely need to be mentioned in this video, is my PlayStation 2 wall, of which I own about 1,000 PlayStation games, which is really only about halfway through like the entire library. And again, this is a video that I've done individually, where we really go over like a lot of the different games, and this is not all of them. There's like, you know, hundreds and hundreds on this wall, but there are some other ones around the game room that you'll see as well. And this is also kind of a display of some posters. A cardboard display that would have been used to sell the greatest hits Wii games at one point. An actual display taken like right from McDonald's with various Mario toys on it. And some standees, which we looked at in my recent standee video, where I went over pretty much all the standees in my collection. There's some really cool ones, the new Super Mario Bros. One, of course, being an absolute classic. It's just a really, really nice looking one. But again, as you've seen in this video, there's actually a couple I forgot to mention as well. And like a couple of signs which would have been hung up in stores back in the day to advertise like the Nintendo DS and such. And then, yeah, when you come into the game room, this is like the first thing that you see is you're met with those arcade machines, which we will be getting to momentarily. I guess we might as well jump to this quickly because we're close enough to it anyway, and we've been touching on PlayStation. It's a PSP display that would have been in the stores back in the day where you could play the PSP, and I've always just kind of kept the PSP in there that came with it. Honestly, it's not very comfortable to use, and I mean, that's not my fault. It's just like how the display always has been. So, I mean, I don't use it all that much, but it has to be there, you know, to kind of keep the display complete. And underneath you get a whole bunch of odds and ends like PSP games, PlayStation related accessories, and if we open up here, we even get like Some Neo Geo games in the back, which all go into my 4-slot Neo Geo arcade machine. And we've also seen some of those in the previous room as well. Just gotta close that up properly there. And there we go. So moving to the left of the PlayStation cabinet, we then get the Game Boy Advance cabinet. And this is a really cool one. I've tried to dedicate it all to Nintendo's portable console, starting with the Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket, even a Japanese Game Boy Light at the top there, followed down to the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Advance SP, and then down to the Nintendo DS, 3DS, and variants of both of those consoles, where, of course, Nintendo's portable consoles have always had, like, many revisions. So you had an original blue Nintendo DS there, followed by a blue Nintendo DS Lite, blue DSi, blue original 3DS, and then blue 3DS XL. Can you tell that I like blue consoles? In case you just, weren't hinted at it enough already. But of course, when it comes to collecting for portables, Nintendo's portables have always been notorious for having tons of color variants, so I've just picked up the ones that I can, and there again is a really nice close-up of that Game Boy Light. Japanese exclusive console, which actually had a lit-up screen, so you didn't have to deal with the worm light and such. Mostly odds and ends on the top shelf here. Carrying cases and things of that nature. Nintendo's portable consoles have also been notorious for having lots of crazy accessories. So you get like the printer and the camera, with all different versions there. Battery packs. Game Boy Advance was of course no exception in having lots of different color variations. Then you had the SP. And you even got like really weird special editions like this, like the SpongeBob one, Game Boy Micro, which I've done unboxings of in the past, bundle, which included the e-reader. There was one that had the purple variant, and then that one over there, which you can't see too well, it's kind of blocked, but that one was the clear variant. Lots of SPs up there, some of which work and some of which have some issues. And then of course moving down here again, we got the Nintendo DS row, along with the very original boxed version of the Nintendo DS that I got back in the day, that included the Metroid Prime Hunters First Hunt demo. And at the very bottom, we actually get, like, Game Boy Color. It unfortunately just wouldn't fit on the shelf at the top that had, like, the Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket stuff, so you get Game Boy Color down here, along with, again, a whole bunch of different portable-related accessories. A still sealed Nintendo e-reader, some more boxed games, and, like, an official Nintendo kind of plastic holder, which holds all those games perfectly. And if we switch this again, here's a better look at the Game Boy Color stuff. Here's the e-reader, Mario Party cards, and some other Japanese e-reader cards. I love the e-reader. I think it was so cool. I still have such fond memories of getting mine for Christmas way back in the day. Finally being able to play those e-reader Mario levels I had been anticipating so much, and then the rest of the series was never released in North America, but thankfully you can now play all of those on the eShop version, the Wii U eShop version of Mario Advance 4, should you wish to. But yes, that is my Game Boy Advance cabinet. And moving on to the left down here, we got a whole bunch of this kind of computer-related things. Texas Instruments, Commodore, and Macintoshes all day long. There were a lot of different versions of the Mac back then, so it's cool to have a whole bunch of those. And yeah, just some different standees and things here as well. Moving more to the left, we got some more computer things. Also some board games, because you have to have a place for those too. Of course, when it comes to playing games with others, video games, Mario Party, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, always like a first choice for me, GoldenEye. But you cannot say no to board games sometimes as well. And that brings us now to one of my other World of Nintendo cabinets, this one housing mainly my boxed Nintendo 64 collection. This is another one where I've done a really in-depth video on it, but we'll still give it a quick look with a whole bunch of boxed Nintendo 64 games, including like all the Mario parties, all the Nintendo essentials pretty much in there, along with a few other things. Mario 64, even some Japanese Nintendo 64 there. And you can get your fill of Zelda and such as well. And moving below that, we get some Famicom. And some Japanese Game Boy Advance. including like the Starfy series, of course, never released in North America. I love, I don't just collect Japanese games for the sake of collecting them, really. I typically like to get the ones that were just never released in North America, like the Starfy series. But sometimes I just, if it's a game I really like, I'll try and pick up the Japanese version as well, like, for example, the Battle Network series or Rockman EXE. I really enjoy those, so sometimes I grab the Japanese versions. And here is my just kind of loose Nintendo 64 collection, and the Nintendo 64 has just under 300 games, and I am only about 10 away from a complete North American set. And I already have like the absolute essential Clay Fighter, Sculptor's Cut. So the other ones I have are still pretty expensive, but I mean, it feels nice to have, I guess, the absolute most expensive N64 game out of the way. And unfortunately, the prices are only going up. It's a great console to get into if you're looking for something that's manageable in completing, because again, it's just under 300 games. But lately, prices of pretty much all video game things have been skyrocketing. So if you're going to get into it, it might be better to do it sooner rather than later, because unfortunately, again, it does seem like things are only going up and getting a little bit more unmanageable for those who wish to enter. And at the bottom cabinet here, we just have a whole bunch of odds and ends. Of course, again, we just recently looked at those two Pac-Man and Q*bert mini arcade machines. And we've also looked at Tiger Electronics before. There's some other things in here too, like Supervision, TurboGrafx 16 in the box back there. So this is just kind of a place where some, things that don't fit to where, anywhere else really have been displayed. But there you go. That is another one of my World of Nintendo cabinets. And we have everyone's favorite game, Tony Hawk Ride, over there. I don't think it was very successful. Oh, but it's still actually like a neat concept, though. I cannot even deny. So slowly moving our way over towards the arcade machines. What should we do next? Maybe we'll turn over here quickly. And this is my kind of Sega Genesis tower. And it spins and has Sega Genesis games ordered all alphabetically. So we start with like 7 and 1 there, and then it goes with your A's, and then that will go all the way around. A little bit wobbly. It was never intended for displaying Sega Genesis games, but it works really well. So I've actually really liked that. And then it comes all the way around to like C. And then once we get back to the beginning again, you go down a row, and it continues with D. And, I mean, I'm probably not going to, like, spin the whole thing around, but I have a decently sized Sega Genesis complete in-box / plastic case collection, I believe. And this is mainly North American games, but I do have a couple of Japanese ones stuck in there, like Puyo Puyo or Rainbow Island, which weren't really released in North America, so I just kind of figured I'd add them into that collection as well. Of course, we got Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine over here, which back in the day I had no idea what a Puyo Puyo was, so I thought that Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was this extremely massive, new, creative thing, but boy was I wrong about that. And yeah, there's just some really cool stuff on the Sega Genesis, and I'm really happy with kind of the complete collection that I've been able to accumulate. And that's not like a complete collection of the games, but rather a collection of complete games I've been able to get. Over here we have some sealed PS2, along with some other PS2 games, which I just have not yet sorted into that wall up there, because it's already kind of full. So unfortunately, it's just not possible to add more games to it at this time. We get Sega Master System, including some pretty cool games like Sonic Chaos, originally a Game Gear game. We got another TV here, along with some figures and things on top. Again, I love my Mega Man Battle Network. And then over here, we once again get some PlayStation games, mainly like the sports ones, which again just did not have room on the other wall. So moving to the right, actually, what we can do now is move into this room, which is not a room that I go into all too often. And a lot of what you'll see on this shelf is things that you've already seen, like NES boxed bundles, N64 boxed bundles. These are just things that did not have room anywhere else, so they've been placed in here. But again, you're not going to find anything like extremely amazing that wasn't already featured elsewhere. Like there's the Atari trackball controller, which is in here because the box is massive. But otherwise, we've seen pretty much all these things before. And then we have some just more odds and ends before eventually coming over to my Xbox wall of about 550 games. So that's a massive chunk of the collection. And Xbox, again, it used to just be like you'd find Xbox games everywhere. And, you know, I would just pick them up because it was really simple to do so. But these days I feel like that's probably not even really all that true anymore. You even have like a copy sealed of Conker's Bad Fur Day, for example. So I definitely have some kind of cool Xbox games in my collection, but it's not a console I've played all that much compared to things like GameCube and PS2, but I definitely enjoyed collecting for it over the years, especially back when it was fairly easy to do so. And now, moving back out, let's go to this world of Nintendo cabinet. And here is the Ace Attorney shelves. Now, my sister and I were absolutely massive Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney fans, and it is just such a fun series. But in recent years, it's of course not been as relevant, and it's also, you know, not as prominent as it used to be. I say that the series peaked around Ace Attorney Investigations 2. It's cool that there are still, you know, more games after that, which unfortunately only had physical releases in Japan. But it is just such a fun series with so many great characters, great music, great stories. So yeah, it was fun back in the day. You know, collecting a whole bunch of things for it, but we don't collect as much for it anymore. But the shelves, I think, are, you know, pretty nice as they are. And there's also, of course, the Dagiak and Saiban games for the 3DS. And I've played both of those and do have the special edition bundle of the first game, but it is just not featured on this shelf. If you ever have the chance to play those two games, I highly recommend it. Moving down, we actually get some more modern Nintendo stuff, like my Mario Odyssey Switch bundle, which is the one I actually play and use, a like late model Wii, the Wii U bundle that came with Mario U and Luigi U, and even some JRPG stuff on the side, along with some vintage Nintendo plushies of Yoshi, Mario, and Donkey Kong. It's actually not even like just Mario, it's Wing Cap Mario, which is pretty darn cool. And you get some Sega Master System stuff. And Mario DDR for the GameCube. And that is my third World of Nintendo cabinet. But with that, I think it's finally time to move over to the arcade machines. Now, these are just... It's amazing the way I've just kind of accumulated arcade machines over the years through connections and just through all sorts of crazy coincidences. And let's just kind of go over them. So the one on the left is Outzone. And it is a really, really obscure but amazing game that you will never find featured on like a game compilation, but it is just really, really fun. So I think that's a really cool one to have. What you're going to notice about my arcade machines is that there's a lot of cases where like it's not identical to how it would have been back in the day. Like this is an Arkanoid machine kind of mixed with a Quix machine, and yeah, it's not 100% how the manufacturer would have intended it back in the day, but I'm not too much of an arcade machine purist. I just like having the games and being able to play them should I wish to, and this is of course my Neo Geo 4 slot, where you can put 4 different cartridges in there and cycle through them with the select game button. And mine overall is still pretty beat up. Again, when it comes to arcade machines, I don't mind them being a little bit rough, because that's how it was back in the day. They'd be placed in arcades and people would play them and get all sorts of use out of them, and I think it's just totally fine for them to look like that. You know, it's kind of like a badge of honor just to show, you know, how loved they were back in the day, but I'm completely different when it comes to home consoles. I don't want like a nasty brown, yellow Super Nintendo that looks like it's been in the sun for 1,000 years. I don't think that's acceptable, but when it comes to arcade machines, I just like being able to play and enjoy the games. I think it's kind of cool when, you know, it looks like they've actually been enjoyed by who knows how many thousands of people over the years. This is Arkanoid, of course, the game with the... we actually saw, you know, the NES controllers earlier, but you can actually play the arcade machine with that, you know, spinning knob controller. We get Rampage here. Most people probably don't need an introduction to Rampage. And we get my PlayChoice 10, a machine I've made a couple of videos about now. This is, of course, Nintendo's official arcade machine back in the day. With they had 10 different games inside it that you could cycle through, much like the Neo Geo 4 slot. And you just put quarters in and you would get a timer, and you could play as many different games as you wished for as long as that timer lasted. And again, I've made an in-depth video about this, showing all the different games on it. So please check it out should you be interested in just what a Nintendo arcade machine would have looked like back in the day. We of course get some more standees, and that brings us to one of the final things that we are going to look at, and that is pinball machines. And I believe the last time I did a room tour, we did not have Monte Carlo. So it was only Hot Hand and Big Guns. So Hot Hand is a 1979 classic pinball machine. And it's very significant because growing up, my dad played this a lot in college. So he always kind of dreamed of owning one, and now we do. And it's a really fun game. And then there's also, again, you got Big Guns. This one's really cool. It has multi-ball features, and it's just overall a really fun game. Balls shoot from the cannons into those kind of metal rails and then back into the play field. This one's from 1987. Has really good music and sound as well. And then to the right, again, Monte Carlo, also from 1987. A very fun game. This one, after meeting certain conditions, the roulette wheel spins in the middle, and depending on what that lands on, you can sometimes get like free ball or have other interesting things happen. And this one is really great as well. I know there's kind of a bad glare on the back glass there. But yeah, so just 3 pinball machines. Pinball's a lot of fun. I feel like it's very underappreciated these days, and it feels like modern pinball machines are just not nearly as good as old ones. There's too many like flashy monitors, and there's all sorts of things going on where I really like the older, this more pure pinball experiences, I think. Like all you really need is some bumpers. You also get that flipper at the top there which spins around, and you have to try and get the ball to land in those slots in order to activate cards. The point is to try and get all of the cards lit up by hitting various targets around the board. And yeah, this Hot Hand is a really cool game, especially considering it's like 1979. So old now, but still so fun. And one of like, I guess the real technically last things is this Pokemon shelf, which again, my sister is massive into Pokemon. I love Pokemon, but she's even more massively into it. So this is pretty much like her Pokemon collection. And it's really like the only thing in this basement that is not organized and taken care of by myself. She kind of takes care of that. But you'll also find some stuff on top, like a boxed Amiga 500, this really kind of weird VHS console once again, some more Coleco stuff. And then coming over here, we got like some standees and some other things. And then of course we've also looked at the Talk Boy on my channel, a very cool, classic toy. And with that, I believe we've actually looked at everything. I guess we could technically also look at the ceiling, just in case you don't want the video to end. Yes, we have all sorts of odds and ends hanging from the ceiling. Sometimes video game related, sometimes not. But when you're completely out of room, sometimes the ceiling is just where you have to go in order to find more space to put all your stuff. But wow, yeah, there you go. I've been wanting to make another room tour for quite some time, and I think that I've done it. Let's just make sure that all of that was actually recording. I pressed the record button, right? I'm just kidding, I think. But yes, with that is my 2021 room tour. Thank you so much for joining. If you watched it all the way through, I really hope that you enjoyed that. I know people have been asking for one of these for quite a while, and it will probably be like the last one I really make. I can't imagine my room is ever going to change that much more from this point that, another room tour needs to be made. There's only really so much you can do in terms of like moving cabinets and rearranging what's inside, and I'm really happy with the way that it's configured right now, and with the fact that thrift stores just don't really give you as much as they used to, and I'm not out there collecting as much as I used to right now. I can't imagine that I'm going to be getting like so much more that things change like super significantly in the next while. So I really hope that you've enjoyed that. And it's funny that back when I did my like 2012 one, it was one of the biggest room tours on YouTube. But these days, there's a lot of amazing collections out there. But I'm not, worried about that in any way. I love my collection. I'm super happy with it. And yeah, this has been my room tour. So I really hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you so much once again. It just means so much, to have everybody's support. And I hope that all of you who've been waiting for this for years, that you had fun. So thanks, and see you later. Thank you so much once again for checking out my videos. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it really helps my channel out. With that said, hope to see you next time.